I'm here with Michelle Wigle, known as Mitch Works Out on social media. And Michelle has had a lot of layers to her weight loss journey, from being keto back before she even had her son to kind of experiencing slash witnessing this life altering moment that made her want to stay healthy for good. And so there's a reason that over 68,000 people love following her on Instagram for inspiration and so much more. So, Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you. As I said, you've had like a lot of layers to your journey. You've gone through tons of different phases, and your Instagram right now says that you're down 65 pounds, I think it is.
hmm
But you've had a long journey. So, yeah, take me back to the very, very beginning, before you had your son.
Before I had my son, I always struggled with weight. It's never been easy for me. Um, I didn't know, I knew there was something wrong, but I went to doctors and every time they were like, no, you're fine. Just keep trying. And I tried every diet. I tried everything. And sometimes I would be successful and lose 20 pounds, but then the minute I would ease off, I would just gain it right back. So I felt like I was always dieting. And I think it was the year that I was trying to get pregnant. So yeah, I believe it was 2016. Anywho, that I met somebody at a bar that my husband was working at, and he told me about keto, and he knew that I was on Weight Watchers, so he was just kind of explaining keto to me, and I was just really intrigued. So I spent a lot of time doing research, figuring it out, and decided to give it a try. And instantly, I just felt so much better. And
Mm.
I kept telling my husband, I'm like, I feel so balanced, and I couldn't explain it. I just felt so good. And the weight loss was coming easy with it. And then fast forward to trying to have my son, I was struggling getting pregnant. And I went to the doctor, and she ran a lot of tests on me. And that's when she told me that I had PCOS.
Mm.
And she actually suggested keto to me, but without saying the words keto, she was saying, like high fats, and she's seen a lot of people do success with low carb. And I told her I was already doing it. And she's like, oh, then you should be fine getting pregnant. And literally the next month I was pregnant. So I had already been doing it for a couple months. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that's like really what helped me, but it was just kind of odd that like it all kind of fell into place.
Mm. And PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome,
hmm
right?
Yeah,
Um, and it's pretty common, isn't it? Like, I think I read somewhere when you and I first chatted that it affects like something like 1 in 10 women, which
hmm
isn't, it's a small number, or it's a big number in comparison to like the
yeah,
statistic. So it's kind of wild how many women actually go through it and like may not know. And so at that point, did you kind of figure out like, oh, this was the thing that was making it hard for me to lose weight originally? Because it can do that.
definitely. Yes. I did a lot of research, and a lot of my problems were, it's easy for you to like retain the water, for the bloating, for just, I mean, literally, if you just aren't watching what you eat, and this is for me personally, it affects everyone differently. If you're
Hmm.
just not like watching what you eat, it's so easy to just like bloat back up. And I know a lot of it is water retention, and yeah, I just really struggled with it. No matter how much exercise or anything I did, what I needed was the diet factor. And that's what helped me the most.
Wow. Yeah, I've talked to like a couple of coaches, I think, that have struggled with this, and everyone's found success differently, as you said. So it's good that you found what worked for you when it comes to
hmm
battling something like that, which, yeah, just can take a toll on your body in all kinds of different ways.
So it took a lot of playing around, but I found what works for me. And that's why I like sharing, is so hopefully it can help somebody else struggling with the same thing.
So, what kind of things should someone like ask their doctor or ask them to test to figure this out? Because, like you said, you talked to a lot of doctors originally and they said you're fine and kind of just kept you going on your way. And then this one doctor finally figured it out for you. So, did that like open your eyes to, oh, I should have asked this, or I should have had them do this one test or something?
For me, the only reason they caught it, because they kept doing blood work, and blood work things would be like a little bit off, but it wasn't enough to like figure it out. The thing that they figured it out with me was an ultrasound. They did an ultrasound and saw all the little cysts, water cysts that I had. And that's the only way she figured it out. She said, because I was always working on my weight and trying really hard, she's like, you don't fit the mold. Like if we looked at you, we wouldn't have thought to test for that, but because I kept stressing like something's not right and I'm not being able to get pregnant and I was missing my cycles here and there, that's how they were able to test for that. So I would say if you really think that that is a problem, I would push for the ultrasound.
Yeah, that's good advice just in general. Like you were spot on in your gut instinct of no matter what the doctors were telling you, you knew that something was off. And so I'm glad that you could eventually find someone that like helped you get there, whether you intentionally
Yeah,
knew to do the ultrasound or
it
not.
took a long time, but we
Yeah.
got there. So just
Yeah. It's
knowing what
like,
you have just gives you like that relief of like, I knew it was something, you know?
right. You're like, I'm not
I'm not
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, that's there's nothing worse than feeling crazy when you're seeking like medical professional advice and they make
Exactly.
you feel like you're totally wrong and you're like, no, I'm in my body. Like I know
You're
that
like, I
something is
feel it.
off.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It took a
Oh,
while, but we got there.
good. I'm glad you got there. I'm not glad that it's there, but I'm glad that you figured it out.
Yeah, yeah. Knowing how to manage it is key, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So you got pregnant and you had your son, and then you were, as most new moms do, back in this routine of like trying to lose the baby weight and all of that, trying to get healthier. And then you experienced something crazy. Well, your husband experienced something crazy,
Yeah.
but I'll let you talk about it.
So after I had my son, I instantly started back on keto, low carb because I was breastfeeding. So I was eating more keto foods, but not tracking cal. I was just trying to be healthy and breastfeed for as long as I could. And when my son was so I did lose like 20, 30 pounds with just diet and like light exercise. And then when my son was 4 months old, we went to Mexico for my sister's wedding. And my husband had a crazy accident where he dove into a wave in the ocean and he hit a sandbank and it completely shattered his C7 vertebrae. So he had to go to the hospital, get emergency surgery. And it was like, for me, the most like eye-opening experience because my husband's really into working out. At the time, especially for some reason, he was really working out his upper body, his neck. And the doctors told us that if it wasn't for him being so strong, he would have passed away or been paralyzed for the rest of his life because he completely broke his neck, basically. So that opened my eyes a lot because even though I was into fitness before and like lightly would try to work out, I just realized that that saved his life. And so for me, all I can think about is being the healthiest and strongest I can be because you never know. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm going to go break my neck, but just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just like woke me up and realized like it's more than just weight loss. It's about being strong and healthy in every aspect, especially now as a mom. All I can think about is being there for my son and how we could have lost my husband if it wasn't for that.
Right. Oh, that story, every time I think about it, the first time you told me that, like it just shakes me to my core. I'm so glad that he's all right and made it through that. And like you said, just incredible that someone's physical strength and dedicating themselves to just like maintaining a workout routine and working on themselves could save their life in that sense. We talk so much about the benefits of eating well and exercising in terms of like it's good for your heart rate and lowers your cholesterol
Hmm.
and all of those things, but that's such a crazy story that you never think about your muscles essentially coming into play to potentially save your life, and hopefully that doesn't happen to many people, but
It's crazy how
what a
common
moment.
it is. It's
Yeah.
really common. Like now that it's happened to us, I hear about it all the time. And I mean, it's really sad most of the time. It doesn't end well like it did for us. So, it just opened my eyes and so much more than just losing weight for selfish reasons, or
Right.
anything else. It was all about like doing it to be the best we could be for ourselves.
Hmm. And so, since you decided to like commit to this for life and focus on being strong and being healthy, like at all points for your life, for you and your son, were you already working out at the time, or was this when you decided to get more into fitness in addition to eating keto and the dieting that you were doing already?
So before, I always tried to be active. My husband's always been really into fitness. So that was like our way of spending time together. So, I was active at the time and I would try to go to the gym, but I would skip days. I would be okay with not going all the time. So once we got back to our home, because we were in Mexico for a while and then we came to Seattle with family for support. And then once we got home and he was starting to recover, that's when I decided to completely dedicate myself to like a program and follow something and be very persistent with it.
Hmm.
And that's how I like initially got super committed to working out and making it more of a passion than just here and there.
Hmm.
So that's when it all
Yes.
started.
Yeah, that's great. And what kind of program did you do? Like, did you make up one for yourself? Did you pick an app or something? What was the thing that got you started?
So years ago, I had tried this app called Sweat.
Hmm.
And I love this app. I used it a long time ago. And so I already had that program. So I decided to start there. And I had like a PDF or something that I used for the first 12 weeks. But then after that, I downloaded their app and I still follow a lot of their programs just because they have everything. They have like from postpartum, they have for, advanced, like everything. So it's just like there, I could just open it. It tells me what to do. And yeah, it's just like takes the guesswork away. So I try to encourage anyone that wants to start any sort of working out to like pick a program and follow it because it keeps you committed.
Right.
So that's the one I've
And
been using.
yeah, yeah. I've heard a couple of people talk about how great that one is for program setting. And you mentioned to me actually that you love having a routine because, like you said, you don't have to think about it. You just do it and it
Hmm.
keeps you on track. But you were talking on Instagram the other day about how important it is for you to also change up your routine from time to time and
Hmm.
like switch up what you're doing. So, how do you do that while also following these programs? Like, do you try different kinds of workouts from here and there? Do you just like switch up the program you're doing? Like, how do you keep it interesting for yourself?
A lot of the times I will on the same app, I'll like they have like cardio based, but then they also have like weightlifting. So I do a lot of that. But then I also like to look up online and see, different routines that somebody might post or something and try those every once in a while. Or I work out with my sister a lot and she's always keeping it interesting for me too. She'll be like,
Mm.
let's try this or let's do that. And so that's helpful a lot too. But I'm a very like structure based person. So I really
Mm.
do try to just like pick that routine and I might switch, different kinds of routines, but I still will usually use some sort of program to follow like that.
Yeah, I'm totally a structure based person too. I like having a schedule and knowing, even if
Yeah,
I switch up my workouts, I'm like, okay, this like Mondays I always run and Thursdays yoga. Like, I
exactly.
have to have it all mapped out
It
because
makes it so
otherwise I
you
won't
stay
do
on
it.
track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You stay on track and you just know because if you have to think about it too long, then you talk yourself out of doing it.
Yeah, exactly. If I don't go to the gym with something in mind, I'll just do cardio and then feel like I just wasted, getting there and not doing anything else. So,
Yeah. And so while you were going along this journey and you found these programs for yourself, you were revisiting it, did your goals change at all? Like, was weight loss like no longer your primary goal, but you were still trying to get there, but also trying to build strength? Like, how did your perspective, I guess, shift at that time?
what I started to realize is I was a slave to the scale, and so I kept thinking like it's all about that number on the scale. I still struggle with this. I know it's definitely one of those things that many women struggle with.
Hmm.
But I started seeing the way my clothes was fitting and the changes in my body, and I can see the muscle tone, and I felt stronger. And so I started to realize it's time to judge by more than just that number, because now my goal isn't to just be a certain weight. It's about getting stronger, leaner, you know, just toning as much as I can, just physically getting stronger basically is what I've been working at now. So
Mm.
I still weigh myself. I still struggle with that, but it's more to keep me accountable, and then I focus more on the numbers, like, getting measurements done, seeing how my clothes fit, stuff like that to keep me going.
Mm. Do you take a lot of before and afters?
I do. I do wish that I had more befores, because when I first started my journey, I didn't take like an actual before picture. I waited for until I started losing weight. So I do wish I had more to show people. Like I really did start from zero. But now as I go, I do take more just to show people the difference of like last year versus this year, because last year I probably weighed less, but my clothes this year fits better. So I
Mm.
like to show a lot of that too, and just share like there's other ways to measure.
Yeah, definitely. And are you now in maintenance? Did I read that correctly on your Instagram?
I am. So I lost the weight that I was trying to reach. And then ever since then, I wanted to put that number aside and just focus on getting stronger. And something I was sharing the other day is I'm constantly battling with those like last 8 pounds, 10 pounds, because
Hmm.
I'll start to get like comfortable and like keep doing what I'm doing, but maybe not be as on it with my diet, or not track or something, and then I go back up, so then I'm back again trying to lose those 8 to 10 pounds. So it's a constant roller coaster. I think maintenance for me has been more of a struggle than losing the weight, because when I was losing the weight I was so motivated to get to that number,
Mm.
that now trying to be at maintenance is like, oh well, I'm there, so I can have this, or I could ease off a little bit, and then I can't catch myself, fading back to old ways, and kind of have to reel it back in.
Yeah. And, I was talking about this in my last interview with a coach, but it's summer now, we're all like
Oh
going
gosh,
to barbecues, all the different burgers are out, it's just tough. Like
definitely.
it's
Yeah,
a
this
tough
last like
time.
month has been a rough one for me for that same exact reason. I'm like constantly like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be back on track. But then you go to a friend's house and there's something there and you're like, oh, I'll just have one. But then it
Hmm.
sends me off the deep end, or deep end for a bit. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
struggle.
Yeah. There's a lot of like balancing that I think we all have to do when we're trying to achieve these goals or just stay in maintenance and
Hmm.
kind of approach our relationship with food specifically differently than we have in the past, especially when we're all going to all these social events right now in the summer. And it really is a balancing act. And I'm constantly working on this conversation with myself of like, okay, like enjoy the party and like don't beat yourself up about it the next day. Like
Hmm.
it's one day and it's fine. But it's really hard. It's really hard to
It
do.
is. It's a constant up and down. Like you seriously have to just be okay with letting go sometimes, and then reeling yourself back in when you need to.
Hmm. And so, now that you met your weight loss goal, which is amazing, and you're in this maintenance mode, give or take, those 8 pounds
Yeah.
you say you struggle with, but basically in maintenance mode all the time. So, what's like a day in the life for you? Like, what do you do for a workout typically? What do you eat typically in a day? Kind of like walk me through that.
So I intermittent fast every day. I've been doing this for years now. So I try to fast until about 11. And then I always start with something keto food. So I'm still following keto.
Hmm.
So it used to be eggs, bacon, something like that. But lately I found out I had a sensitivity to eggs. So I'm kind of struggling right now trying to find my new balance there and what I eat.
Yeah.
But I'll usually have like one big keto meal to break my fast. And then, oh, I also work out fasted. So almost every day I work out fasted. I'll do that before I eat.
Hmm.
And then I start my day. So I'll usually do like some sort of protein shake with that, add some MCT powder. Um, and that's what I break my fast with. And then I'll have my big lunch. I'm a huge snacker. So I always tell people I know that a lot of times they're encouraged to eat every 3 hours or every 4 hours. I snack a lot. So I probably, in my eating window, I don't measure the time of like when I'm eating. I just, you know, do that. And then I'll have one big dinner. And my dinner is usually around like 6 or 6:30. And then after that, I don't eat anything. Like that's when my
Mm.
fasting starts. So I like to do it earlier. Some people like to eat later, so they'll move their fasting window around that. But yeah, I still follow 20 net carbs or less a day. And sometimes I track just to make sure I'm staying on track, but usually I just try to eat when I'm hungry and not stop myself because I know that I'm going to fast anyway. So that helps me control my calorie intake quite a bit.
Intermittent fasting is so interesting. You're like the second person I've talked to this season who does that. Is it the 16/8 method that you do, or do you
Mhm.
do a different one? Oh yeah, that's the
It depends.
classic.
Like if I'm not hungry by the 16, I'll push it sometimes. I started doing it for a while where I was like trying to force myself to fast longer and my body hated it. I felt like when I did eat, I was like starving. So now I'm trying to get back to like 16 would be my longest. Every once in a while, if I'm just not hungry, I just eat or I don't
Mm,
eat, but I kind of am trying to do like what my body's telling me versus trying to be so in control about it.
yeah.
Um, and so that's been helping me quite a bit.
Can you drink anything during the fasting window? Like, I'm assuming you can have water. I think I've heard you can have black coffee.
Black coffee, water, and tea.
Okay.
That's it. Some people believe that you can have like a fatty coffee and it won't break your fast. I would rather stick to as little as possible, more limited. I drink a lot of water when I'm fasting. Like that's when I try to get a lot of my water intake in. And tea helps me quite a bit, like after dinner. I like to have tea after because it's kind of like telling my body, like, that's it, now it's
Hmm.
time for more liquid. And for some reason, mentally, that helped me get through it. But
Yeah.
usually just water and coffee the most for me.
Yeah. I have started like training myself to drink black coffee.
It took me a long time to start drinking black coffee. Before, I wouldn't have any caffeine until I broke my fast. I did the fatty coffee for the first like 2 years of my journey. I recently just stopped because I started drinking black coffee. So now I had it before I broke
Hmm.
my fast, but it took me a long time. I would watch my husband and my sister drink it like it was no problem, and I'd be like, "Oh, no, no, no. I have to have something in it." And now it's like I actually enjoy it. I like the taste.
Yeah, I used to think that too, especially like I've been addicted to coffee since I was a teenager, essentially. And so it's been years in the making of getting to this point.
Hmm.
But I used to say the same thing. I'd be like, I need something in it.
Yeah,
But you really can train yourself. And, if you just get a good type of coffee, then like you're more likely to drink it black
definitely.
than not.
I bought the Nespresso, and that's been a big game changer for me. Their
Oh,
coffees are
yeah.
so good.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're strong.
yeah.
um, well, that's really awesome that you've like found that structure in your day through the fasting and can sort of like keep that consistency that I know that you like to do. And so you mentioned to me that you know how to do all of this on like a really busy schedule. You're a mom, you've got what I
Hmm.
think is he 3-year old?
Yeah, I just turned 3.
Y'all, happy birthday. And
Thank you.
yeah, so you're a busy mom and you used to travel a ton for your job. So you had to maintain this like super active, super healthy lifestyle on a really crazy schedule. So what advice would you give people who feel like they don't have time? Like, how did you manage that?
So one thing I always tell people is you don't need to do it every day to go, work out, do all that, like I understand it's so time consuming. I try to do at least 4 days, 3 to 4 days a week, 30 minutes or more. just moving, just get out there and move, even if it's just a walk, take your kids to the park and maybe walk around the track, or something. Just, I don't know. I just like to emphasize that even though we don't have a lot of time, and I understand as a mom that's so difficult, you've
Mm,
got to like give yourself at least 30 minutes a day where you can like dedicate to yourself for your own sanity as well. Because
yeah.
all you're doing is for everyone else. That I just find it that even if I can just give myself a 30-minute workout, I mentally feel so much better. So just making the time for yourself, even if it's just 3 to 4 days a week, it doesn't take much for you to get it done. When I do travel, or I travel for work, so I'm a hairstylist, I come to Seattle and I work 9, 10 hour days, so I'll either wake up really early or I'll try to do it after work. Like I'm always trying to find a little bit of me time and just get it done. So
Mm.
yeah, I just think that, just finding nap time was a big one for me when I first started. When my son was sleeping, that I was moving. I would be downstairs putting on a workout video or whatever I had time for, which is why I like to share my workouts that are short and easy, something that you can do in small spaces, just to hopefully show moms that you can still get it done regardless of how much time you're putting into it.
And do you mostly work out at home to fit it in like that? Or do you ever go to the gym or do a class or something like that?
When I first started, I'd say like the first year, I only worked out at home. And then I started getting into the gym, but then COVID happened. And so then I went back to working out from home. So I'd say a lot of my journey has been from home. And now, like for the last like year or so, I definitely go to the gym quite a bit. My son's old enough to go to the childcare there. So now I'd say most of it is at the gym. But then when I'm traveling for work, I work out from home again. So it's a balance. I do both, but I don't think that you have to go to the gym to get it done. You could do it at home. It's just as effective. So yeah.
Yeah, I've pretty much been exclusively working out at home this year, which has worked out really well, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's
been
just
good.
as effective, I feel like, as going to the gym. It's just whatever your goals are, especially for weight loss. If you're not trying to build a bunch of muscle right away, there's so much circuit training you could do and stuff in your own living room. You don't need a lot of equipment. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
And do you typically, when you're working out at home, like, do you typically do that like circuit training? Do you focus on like
Mhm.
hit workouts or anything like that or
Yeah, it's
anything
mostly like
different?
body weight and hit workouts. I don't have a lot of heavy weights at home.
Hmm.
So I just try to do a lot of body weight, a lot of, jumping jacks or jump rope, whatever stuff like that that I can kind of incorporate to get my heart rate up. But it's a lot of circuit training, I'd say is the most that I do. Yeah.
And then when you're at the gym, do you do heavy weights there?
Yes. And that's just started. I'd want to say February is when I finally was like, okay, I need to start something new, something different. So since February, I've been lifting more heavy weights and doing more of that than circuit training. And it's so funny how, you're used to like sweating and having your heart rate up, and it's such a different workout now. So it's been kind of fun seeing the changes in my body, but like also realizing that any way or style you work out is going to be effective as long as you're sticking to it,
Yeah.
because I had such a different mentality on that before. I was like, nope, it's only circuit training. That's all that works for me. And now I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is working for me too. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, and you used to think that we all do. We've all gone through this misconception before, but you used to think that lifting weights was going to like make you too bulky or something. So when did you sort of realize that wasn't true and get over that and decide to do the weight training after all?
So my husband would always tell me, like, you need to start lifting, you need to start doing weights. And I'd be like, no, 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 no. Like, that's not what I'm going for. I'm trying to lose this much weight. And he kept like, encouraging it. And then I started actually because I started taking, I'm studying to be a personal trainer. So I was just, going through reading all the book and all that. And, a lot of it says, how successful you could be with weightlifting as well. And so I decided to try it and work on it myself so that when I go to train somebody later, I can show them what worked for me. But to answer your question, it took me a good month to like really like let go, because you initially, you do retain more water, your muscles are sore, you're going to see some of the weight go up. But then I started feeling like my clothes were fitting even better. I noticed so much change in my body that, like, when I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh, okay, you do look leaner, even though you weigh more or whatever. So it took me a little bit to like really acknowledge that it was okay, and to like let
Yeah.
go and just give it a try. But I told myself to give it at least a month, of doing it and seeing the results before making that decision of like, oh my gosh, you aren't, you're getting too bulky, or you're looking like this or like that. And I did a lot of measurements and I started seeing the numbers going down, and that really helped me too. So, and now it's like addicting. Like you see like the muscle tone and you're like, ooh, okay, that's awesome. I want more of that.
Yeah. That's really good advice to give something a month or some set amount of time, a week, whatever it is, before you decide that you're going to totally give it up. I mean, there's a difference between, right, of like, we don't want to force anyone to do workouts that they absolutely hate. But in your case, you didn't hate it. You just had this fear that it wouldn't give you the results you wanted. And then it
Yeah.
turns out it did.
Guys, give it a solid like month for you to make the decision if it's working for you or not. Because I get a lot of messages like, I've been doing it for a week and I haven't seen anything. And I'm like, well, give it time. Your body's adjusting to whatever you're changing, So, and weight fluctuates so much too. So it's like, give it a solid 30 days and see what happens then, instead of just telling yourself it's not for you.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. And speaking of like people messaging you and asking you for advice, so I think you told me that you have a lot of moms that also follow you. So
Hmm.
other than balancing a really busy schedule, which we talked about, what are some of the top things you think the moms that follow you are looking for and that you're typically giving them advice on?
It's mostly, I would say, diet, like how I did it, like how I found the time. And, it's all about what you have at home. Like a lot of people always say, like, well, I'm cooking for my son and my husband, and they're not keto or they're not interested in any sort of diet. Like, how did you balance that? And when I first started, my husband did do it with me, which really helped. But now we just kind of cook more healthy together, and then he'll add, like, if he wants rice or if he wants something with more carbs, like he'll make it himself. But it's just about being prepared, like having those foods in the house for yourself, maybe making a big dish that you can like make for the rest of the week or whatever. Like, um, just finding little tips and tricks to like help you stay on track. Maybe having a section in your fridge that's like what you eat and that's what you're going to grab. And the hardest part for me that I always tell moms is like, don't eat your kids' leftovers, because I understand it's hard to throw away food. And you're just like, I don't want to toss this. And that was a hard one for me, was like being okay with just not having to finish whatever was left over, or feel like I had to eat that too because that's what he was eating.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't have children, but the food I associate the most with children, and I have like a 2-year-old nephew, is like chicken nuggets.
oh,
I
yeah.
don't know
And
why
who
that's
doesn't
the
want to eat
food.
some chicken nuggets?
Right. Oh
Or
my God.
mac
If there
and
were
cheese?
leftovers, oh my God,
Yeah,
the mac and cheese kill. I'm like such a child still, in the sense that I'm a sucker for mac and cheese. Like I eat
that's my
pretty
husband.
healthy. Oh my God, I love it. And like the minute I'm around children, like if I'm babysitting or something, I'm like, you want to have mac and cheese? 'Cause that's
Yeah.
what I want.
That
They
was like when
get
I was
you.
babysitting too. I'd be like, "Oh, here, I'll make this," because it was like what I like too. So,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
like, oh, I have the excuse to eat pizza because I'm hanging out with a 2-year-old. So why
Yeah.
not?
I'd say that's the hardest part, is like you have all these foods that like, in your house that you want for them, but tempting for you to want to grab and try it too. So
Mhm.
it's just learning
And
to like have that discipline to be like, no, no, this is what I eat. That's what you have.
yeah. Does your son, does he like kind of eating healthy with you?
My son is a carb baby. He loves all carbs. He loves bread. And I don't want to take that from him. Like,
Right.
of course, I want him to eat healthy, and I'll always try to introduce healthier options, but he just doesn't want it. And he's a 3-year-old, and I'd rather him eat and have
Mhm.
something in his system than to like, not eat at all. So, that's something that we've been trying to find some balance with. I know as he gets older, I'll be able to introduce more, but for now, he lives off chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, and bread. Like there's no stopping that, you know? So,
Well, if it gives you any hope, I was the pickiest eater as a kid, and
oh,
now I eat everything. But when I was little, it was the same, like up until I think when I was maybe like in middle school, I was so picky. And then all of a
yeah.
sudden I went on like a school trip or something, and I was like, oh, everyone's eating. And if I don't join in, then I won't get to taste all the things that they're trying. And so maybe I should suck it up and do it. And now I love like everything.
That gives me
But I
hope
was,
because I can't tell you how
yeah,
many times I'm like, "Ugh, my kid just doesn't want anything, you know?
yeah, he
So
will. I have faith he will get there. If I can do it, he can do it. But I totally
I hope
understand
so. I hope
being a
so.
3-year old and like just wanting chicken nuggets.
Yeah. I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to take his childhood and make it something that he hates, you know?
Right, right. Makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, this is awesome. I think that you have so much like inspiration to share with people, and I love the way that you've just like found so many different things to work for you. I like saved a like even just a little arm circuit of yours that you posted the other day for me to do at home, which is awesome. So now that you've been on this huge journey and you've like lost the weight you wanted to lose and you're building all this amazing muscle, if you could look back to the beginning and say one thing to yourself, what do you think you would say?
Gosh, this is something that I tell everyone too, is like, you're stronger than you think you are, you know, because you want to tell yourself like, oh, I can't do that, like you did it because you know you're lucky or you had help, or you know, it's like you are stronger than you think you are, you know, like you can go through all these challenges and ups and downs, but you can achieve what you set your mind to, you know, like
Hmm.
just give yourself that confidence and you can do it. So that's definitely what I would tell myself now.
That's great. Great advice for like anyone and you, of course. And so thinking of that, if you could say one thing to like anyone who's just getting started, what's one thing you would say to them?
Patience. Be patient with yourself because it is a long and slow journey. So, you know, give yourself those victories, those small victories, you know, and just be patient with yourself because you are going to mess up. We all do. We're human. But just get back on track. So just have the patience to continue.
It's good advice. I personally feel like my journey is slower than most people, so I'm trying to practice that myself.
It's so hard,
It's
especially like
hard.
don't compare yourself because that's another thing I tell a lot of people is like, we're different. You can't compare yourself to what I've gone through. And you don't know my struggles from before or in
Mhm.
between, you know, like
Mhm.
everyone has them. So, you know, you just gotta be patient with yourself and move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the tough thing about like social media, right? Is that
Mhm.
it can be so amazing for this stuff. You can find people who are going through the same things as you and find a little community. And, I saved your arm workout the other day. I'm going to try it. But you also hear like, oh, I changed in a month or like a year. And you're like, well, it's been a
I
year.
know.
Maybe I'm 2 years. It's everybody's different. And it's important to like step back from that stuff for a second and be like, well, I'm
Yeah.
in my own body and maybe it's not the same as these other bodies I'm seeing, and that's okay.
Exactly, exactly. That's one thing. That's the reason I share a lot of like my before and afters and like the actual time it took because I've seen people do what I'm doing and do it in 3 months, you know, or
Hmm.
in 2 months, you know, and it took me 9 months to a year to really do it because I had other things stopping me too, you know. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm like, look at, you know, time frames and realize that not everyone's the same.
Right, right. That's so important. Oh,
Yeah.
well, Michelle, this has been really fun. I have a couple rapid round questions for you before you
Oh gosh.
officially are free to go. And then you are free. But here we go. So, first one is, what is one myth about health that you used to believe was true?
That you needed carbs, that you had to have rice and pasta to like reach your goals, to like gain muscle.
Mm. And what is your favorite workout move and why?
Ooh, gosh, I'd say, well, squats. I don't know. I just feel like it gives me like a full body workout, you know? And I've
Yeah,
always struggled
you're
with the legs, so that's probably my favorite.
you're not the first person to say that. I've heard that squats are a favorite for a lot of people. Um, okay, and a little would you rather is your last one. So, would you rather eat what you want and have to exercise or have a strict diet but never have to exercise?
Oh, eat what I want and have to exercise. I wish that was my reality. I get
Me
so
too.
jealous of people that can do that. I'm like, gosh, I wish that that was what I could.
Me too. If there's like anything I've learned about this whole experience for my body, it's that, and I think this is the case for most people, but really for me, it's nutrition matters like 10 times more than the exercise. No matter
Definitely.
how dedicated I am, I'm like, oh, it's the freaking food every
Well,
time.
they always say you can't out train a bad diet, you know, and it's like so
Yeah.
true. And I see that all the time because I've been living it these last like couple weeks. So it's
Yeah.
true.
But it's crazy. Like to your point, when you said you started keto and your body started adjusting to it, you felt so much more balanced and you just felt really good. And that's what I've noticed for me too, is I just make much healthier choices now. And I still like eat what I want, but I balance it out with like better meals
Exactly.
throughout the week. And I just like I'm conscious of the choices I make so that I don't eat only bad things all the time. And I feel so much better overall. It's a huge difference.
Yeah. And that's one thing. Like I tell people, I do keto because that's just what works for me. I'm not saying that that's for everyone or that that's going to work for everyone. Like for, you know, some people just balancing, you know, their meals is fine. For me, it's my PCOS that makes me so strict. And that's why I'm so attached to keto, but I'm not opposed to the standard diet as well. You know, it's just you got to find what works for you and find your balance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really all it is. And it can take time to figure it out. And it's like a lot of trial and error, but it's important to go through that. So then you learn what it
Yeah,
is.
definitely. I mean, like I said, I gave everything a try before I found what worked for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. You're not the first person I've talked to who said the same thing before they found keto. They were like, I tried 8 different things and then I learned about this method and I tried that and it changed my whole life.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, well, Michelle, thanks again. Like I said, this was really, really fun. I'm so glad I got to talk to you and like learn about everything that you know now as like a busy mom who's making all of these things work for you and you're building this strength, which is so cool. What is the heaviest you can lift, by the way, now?
Ooh, I don't know. So I'm still pretty beginner. So like for squats, and you know what? I never like measure the bar. So I put like 45 on each side and whatever the bar is. So I don't even remember what the total would be there. So
Yeah,
I'm
I don't know what
still
the
like,
bar is either.
I think it's 45 for the bar. I don't remember. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like quite that strong, but I have been like upping my weights. Like I started lifting with like 5 pounds, you know, and now
Hmm.
I'll do 30s or, you know, 25s or something, you know. So I just keep trying to push it little by little. I'm still working on it though. So I wouldn't say I'm that strong quite yet.
No, that sounds strong to me. 45 sounds high. I'm in eights land right now, although I don't really go to the gym anymore. So they're just dumbbells, but that's pretty strong to me. And that's so cool that you got there after like having this fear of doing it originally. Now you're seeing amazing
Yeah. And
results.
now it's fun to like add weight and you're like, oh, I can't believe I just did that, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Oh.
fun. But yeah, I'm definitely still a beginner. I'd say like, yeah, I don't even know what I'm lifting yet.
That's good. You're not even paying attention. You're like just
Yeah.
showing up and doing it. Well, Michelle, thanks again. Like I said, so much fun. Loved getting advice from you. And I'm sure I'll like see you in the WayBetter app soon and we'll be in a game
Yeah,
and maybe we'll be
definitely,
lifting weights or
definitely.
something.
Right? Maybe
Yeah.
my next challenge will be like try weightlifting.
Yeah. I would play that game for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank
Awesome.
you for having me. It's fun to share and just tell people it's everything's normal. It's all going to be a struggle. It's all going to be time consuming, but you can do it. You can get there.
You can do it. You can get there. That's the motto for this episode.